Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're Eugenio Beaufrand and Xinyi Liu, and today we're going to show you our NYC Employment Analysis project briefly. We did this project in EDAV, and our instructor was Dr. Joyce Robbins. So the reason we did this project is because we think NYC is interesting and diverse, and we thought it would be a good candidate for exploratory data work. We also thought that since it's so complex, taking a high-level view, as we've done, can maybe give us a few topics to focus on for improvement. Some things we noticed were, first, that there's a big contrast in sector employment propensities amongst the groups. So first off, we had Asians being predisposed to STEM, Hispanics being predisposed to traditional labor jobs, a high representation of social and public service work in the African American community, and for the whites, not fitting neatly into any box, but having the highest representation in legal, arts, and design occupations. Up next, we had considerable differences in sector occupation stabilities. On one hand, we had very stable municipal jobs such as police and firefighters, but on the other hand, we had dynamic jobs, some of them being high growth STEM jobs, but some of them being just not very common jobs at NYC, such as farming, fishing, and forestry. Moving on, and finally, we had an interesting landscape of gender salary gap disparity. So on one hand, we had large gaps in traditional labor and contingent compensations, such as with law and sales. But we also had small gaps in STEM and humanities. And even in some cases, our outliers, we had cases such as in construction and transportation, where women were actually paid more than men.
There are four main steps in our project, and the first one is data collection. The majority of the data is from Census Bureau. Once we've got the data, we need to do data pre-process, and the first task is to transform the data. We combine the data from small pieces of tables together into larger ones for comprehensive analysis. And the second task is to analyze the missing values and fill in the null values based on the patterns that we discover. The third step is data visualization, and we use both static and interactive graphs for visualizing. We pick the types of the graphs based on data type and also the patterns that we want to discover. And finally, we organize our findings and put them into an R book dump book. Our main challenges focuses on three parts. The first one is data, and then creativity, and also learning. Some of the data we got from Census Bureau does not have a consistent format. Besides, we need to retransform the data to tailor every plot that we want to draw. Therefore, we've got many scripts, like over 20 scripts in our data preprocess part. The second challenge is to find useful and also interesting ideas about data visualization. On the one hand, we hope to discover something that is interesting and meaningful, but on the other hand, we also need to keep the content of the plot concise and intuitive. The last challenge is fast learning. We need to grasp the knowledge of Git, R bookdown, and also D3 in very limited time. For example, at the beginning of the semester, we have no idea about JavaScript and D3, but at the end of the semester, we can get a plot like this from scratch with D3.
Wrapping up, and some of the potential broader benefits of the project is first that we think we've created some room to generate opportunities in way of finding tailored approaches to finding people jobs based on which sectors have more or less job stability. Another thing that we think would be an interesting read from some of the content of our project is opening the door for inclusivity efforts based on where some racial groups are under or overrepresented. Lastly, we think we've helped to create an environment conducive to understanding that the gender pay gap environment isn't a monolith, but it varies from place to place. So maybe with this understanding, we can take appropriate action to create a just and meritocratic pay system for all. Thank you for listening to our project. We hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.